Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to Unexplored Skyrim. Today we're going to be checking out the absolutely gorgeous Lake Ilinalta. We're going to be checking out a lot of the surrounding area and see what secrets we can find at Lake Ilinalta. As you can see from this opening, this lake is absolutely gorgeous. There's so many cool hidden places around the lake, and I had a ton of fun making this video and exploring the surrounding area. Of course, this is in the Falkreath Hold, and it is just an incredible experience going around this area. So without further ado, let's jump into it. And here's the location of Lake Ilinalta. We're going to be starting at the southwestern portion of the lake at Half Moon Mill, and then make our way around the lake clockwise, moving to Inalta's Deep, Brittleshin Pass, Anise's Cabin, the Lady's Stone, and then the Silvermoon. And we'll also have a sneak peek at Lakeview Manor, even though we aren't the Thane of Falkreath yet. Now, as I made my way around Lake Ilinalta, I found there weren't very difficult enemies, so it was a pretty leisurely stroll around the lake. And at Half Moon Mill, we can find two vampires running the mill, Hurt and Hearn. However, they both are actually quite friendly to the player character. They will not harm us, they will not attack us, we can even stay inside their lodging, and they won't hurt us. And we can even sell them logs or buy sewn logs from them if we are building a house. However, these characters turn hostile during the Dark Brotherhood contract quest, Kill Hearn. So, because of the Dark Brotherhood, you might have to kill Hearn, and then you'll become an enemy to these people. And I just want to point out on this chopped down tree, we have a dead rabbit and a bottle of mead. There's also an iron ore vein next to that. And then as we make our way to the far northwestern part of the lake, we can find a lone fisherman who has obviously been here for a while. He says he's been fishing in these parts for years. He has a little bit of a campfire and a rowboat, which is pretty cool. We also have an absolutely immaculate view, which is what you saw earlier in the video. And there are various ingredients around the lake, as you saw there on that log. So if you're into alchemy and that's your kind of thing, then you definitely want to pay attention for that. As you can see there was a mud crab and a freaking elk. Elk stood no chance against my fire. And then we arrive at Inalta's Deep. Now, I really didn't know what to expect at this part because this is a part of the quest, the Black Star, which is a part of the College of Winterhold quest line. Upon some research, I actually thought the entrance would be blocked off. However, I misunderstood, and actually you can go inside and pretty much complete the vast majority of the dungeon. At the very beginning, we will find this skeleton hanging from this pole, and inside the knapsack we can find some random loot, but in that knapsack we can find a fisherman's journal, which we can presume belongs to the skeleton. And if we read the journal, we learn that this fisherman, a long time ago, couldn't catch any fish, so he decided to move to Lake Ilinalta, which at the time had a bad reputation for ghosts or being haunted or being dangerous, and obviously we can see that this fisherman met a very dark fate. It's also worth mentioning that Inalta's Deep used to be an old imperial fortification before it sunk into the lake, or the lake took it in and engulfed it. Now as we make our way through the dungeon, we want to go to our left. If we go to our right, we come to a dead end. So we want to kill these necromancers who will revive skeletons, but it's a pretty easy fight as you move through. We'll come into this large dining area, and you want to kill everyone, obviously. And then we can find a variety of potions, which can always be good, especially if you're a new player such as myself. Now, in this earlier room, there is some more potions, which is of course good. And the main thing I wanted to point out is this fireplace in the dining room is quite scary looking. There's a lot of skulls that are very bloody on these spikes. Don't know why they did that, but, interesting design choice. Then in the next room, we can find a large flooded room. There'll be a necromancer with a skeleton, so we definitely want to take him out. And after killing him and his skeletons, I didn't kill the skeletons because I thought they were attached to the necromancer. After killing the skeletons, there is a chest which we can loot, which will contain random loot. Now, in this flooded compartment, you will actually want to go for a swim, so activate your otter powers, and you want to dive down into this flooded section. We'll just find a flooded room with an empty nightstand, or just dresser, I guess, not a nightstand, I don't know what the difference is, and then a chest which will contain random loot, which for me was pretty good considering my level. Then above you there will be a skill book, But I was really confused because I knew there was a skill book in here, but I couldn't find out where it was. So after digging some on the internet, because the wiki was of absolutely no help to me in this matter, I finally found that it's floating on the ceiling. You could see it, I just swam just right by it. But after looking around, I was able to find the skill book. Here it is, so just look at the ceiling and it'll increase your alteration skills. So a pretty solid find if you ask me. And then as we keep making our way through Ilinalta's Deep, we will eventually find a room with an enchanting table and an alchemy set. Definitely make sure to kill everyone in here unless you're just like a masochist. And then you want to lockpick this door. And inside of this room we can find some pretty good potions. There's also a chest that you can loot for some, at least for me, it was just gold, but hey, better than nothing. And in the other room there were some more potions. Again, I'll take whatever I can get. Now, across from the alchemy stand, we can find a Tragedy in Black, which will increase our enchanting skill, which is freaking awesome. Then on this bookshelf, I was trying to find it. I was a bit confused. There are several books, but on the top shelf, we can find a copy of Vernacus and Borler, maybe? And this will increase your archery skill by 1, but since I've already found this book, it doesn't do anything for me, but maybe it does something for you, so you're welcome. And then as we continue our way, we come to this main chamber where you'll have your most difficult fight yet. In this room, you'll have to fight a leveled necromancer that is across from you, so you have to swim over in order to kill them. And this is kind of the quote-unquote boss of this dungeon. However, if you're doing the Black Star quest, then you're going to have a much more difficult fight against Malin Varen later on in the dungeon. But since we are not doing that quest yet, it is impossible to access that room, so, we'll just cry about it. Now, inside of this chest, we can find some really good loot, so definitely make sure to take a look at it. As we make our way towards the end, we will find a locked door. That just really had some potions in here for me, but, not bad, but not really great either. And then as we continue our way up this staircase, we will eventually find a blocked door, and by opening this, we can see the entrance to Ilinalta's Deep. Now, there will be a large stone kind of blocking this small creek or just river of water, and this is where you'd have to go during the Black Star quest. Now, even if you console command remove that boulder, the door will be absent, so the door doesn't appear until you start the quest. Quite interesting. And as you can see, when we exited Ilinalta's Deep, we were greeted with a very beautiful sight in the sky with the aurora and the moons. Now, just to the east and a bit to the north of Ilinalta's Deep, we will find Brittleshin Pass. And this pass just leads us through the mountain range that kind of divides Falkreath and Whiterun. So, definitely a worthwhile passage, I guess, if you're not using fast travel. Now, inside, there's pretty much just skeletons, but you will find a necromancer, so do be aware of that. However, there's really not a whole lot inside of this pass. It's simply a method to get through the mountain, which I do have to say is pretty darn cool. It really makes Skyrim feel very authentic. I can imagine these kind of ancient passes in a magical world. It's really cool. Kill the necromancer in the next room, and we can also find a book that will increase our conjuration. Skill books are always welcomed loot, in my opinion. On the skeleton, there was some gold, and there's also some more books if you're interested, and an enchanting table. Continue to make your way, there is a chest with a flawed Varla stone, and as far as opposition, there's just some skeletons and a few traps, so do be careful of the traps, those are no fun, but skeletons are pretty easy to kill. And then we'll come out at the northern end of the pass, and as you can see here on the world map, we are now on the other side of the mountain range, so pretty darn cool, pretty darn fast as well, I might say, much easier than climbing over the mountain. Now, this next location, Anise's cabin, was recommended to me by random motherfucker K6W. So this location is just a small cabin in the woods, and there's a very nice grandma who is ready to greet us here, whose name we can obviously assume is Anise, and she says, "I'm just a poor old woman. No need to trouble me with anything." And then she says, "Oh, I'm so happy that I have a guest. Wow, we have a visitor." Well, folks, if you can't tell, she's kind of hiding something. Now, if you have never visited this location, I'd recommend pausing the video and then coming back after you've played through this area. But anyways, inside of her bedroom, we can find a locked trap door leading us to a cellar. Now, if you try to take anything, it would be considered stealing. Now, behind us, over on this desk, we can find Anisa's letter, which reads, "Helgi, dear, why do you hesitate? You can feel the power coursing in your blood. You have only to reach out and grasp it. Renounce that boy of yours and come live with me in the forest. My sister will be here soon. Together we can form a proper coven and your training will truly begin." So we can learn that Anise is actually a witch, and as soon as we leave the cellar, she will attack us. She doesn't attempt to explain herself. She doesn't try and play innocent. Honestly, I don't really know what's so bad about practicing magic out in the forest in a game called Skyrim where there's so much magic anyway. But anyways, she will attack us and we have to kill the witch. Too bad, not very sad. And after that, we still cannot take any loot from this cabin without the game considering it stealing, which is quite unfortunate. There's also a skill book that'll increase our alchemy skill, but besides that, not a whole lot out here, but we can sleep in the bed, and I thought that was pretty interesting because everything else is stealing. Now, as we come to the northeastern part of Lake Ilinalta, we can find the beginning of the White River, which is, of course, where Whiterun gets its name. And there's also a fisherman here who says he's poaching. Maybe we should arrest him, but we're not about that. Also pretty darn cool, we can find a fishing map of Lake Ilinalta, which tells us the best fishing locations in the area. Pretty freaking cool if you ask me. Now, as we make our way west back across Lake Ilinalta, we will eventually find some unmarked Nordic ruins. Of course, these are now underwater, so perhaps they just collapsed into the lake, or perhaps the lake used to be much more shallow. But we're going to talk about this lake's, depth later in the video, so don't you worry. Now, there's really nothing in the ruins, besides maybe some ingredients and an iron mace. And most notable is this chest underneath the staircase, and so definitely take a look at that, see what kind of loot you get. But besides that, not a whole lot at these unmarked ruins. After that, we will continue our way across Lake Ilinalta, and eventually we'll find this unmarked fisherman who has a small camp here at the middle of this island, which is really a good place to camp out and do some fishing, I thought. He also has a nice little rowboat. There's also a really small island right next to that bigger island, and so from here we can just really take in the views of Falkreath. Now we want to continue towards the middle of the lake, where we can find the Lady's Stone. This is a standing stone, and upon activating this stone, it'll increase your health and stamina regeneration by 25%. This can also be used to counteract the effects of a vampire for their lack of health and stamina regeneration during the day. So not half bad if you're a vampire. And then right next to the Lady's Stone, we can see the mast of a ship. And if we go down below the water, we can find a massive shipwreck that has largely been picked over. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of loot here besides ingredients. Now, there is a chest, which I'll show later, but besides things like slaughterfish eggs and fungus, there really isn't a whole lot here. Now, we can actually swim into the old parts of the ship, and we can kind of explore around the shipwreck. Even if you don't have a potion of water breathing, you can still take a fairly good look at the shipwreck. Just keep going up to the surface to get some oxygen. And we cannot go very deep though, because a lot of the ship is simply too far deep into the soil. Now on the middle deck is where we can find a chest next to a skeleton. Perhaps the skeleton was really trying to protect 3 gold. My guy, not very smart. And also in this main area, we can assume this may have been the captain's quarters, because at the top we can find a skeleton and we can actually take the skull of this skeleton. So I decided to take the captain out of his ship and to place him over on land. Don't know why I did this, don't know if it's respectful, seems a bit disrespectful, but hey, I finally rescued the poor captain of this sunken ship. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this ship and the depth of the lake is why in the hell is a ship of that size in Lake Ilinalta? Either it was used as some kind of ferry or some kind of sightseeing, or the lake used to be much bigger and much deeper. Either way, I don't know. And as I said earlier, we'd take a quick look at Lakeview Manor. However, we cannot discover this location until we become Thane of Falkreath, which is unfortunate. But directly beneath Lakeview Manor, we can find a conjurer around this table who we can kill. And on this table, there is a skill book, which will increase our conjuration. So pretty darn good. Now, Lakeview Manor is perhaps my favorite house in all of Skyrim, simply because of the view of Lake Ilinalta is simply immaculate. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this longer video of Unexplored Skyrim, and I hope you learned something about Lake Ilinalta or the surrounding area. I had a lot of fun making this video and exploring around the area to see what I can find. There are so many interesting things in Skyrim. Some of them are marked, some of them are unmarked. Either way, I'm enjoying playing this game, and I'm learning a lot about Skyrim and the world, a lot of things I didn't know before. Alright guys, if you have any recommendations for a future video or future video idea, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time.